One of the biggest names in the entertainment industry has once again stepped down after accusations of rape, assault, and human trafficking. We're analyzing the 67-page lawsuit against 78-year-old WWE founder Vince McMahon and bringing you some of the most shocking details. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Janelle Grant, a former staffer in WWE's legal and talent departments, has filed a lawsuit in U.S. District Court against World Wrestling Entertainment, more commonly known as WWE, Vince McMahon, the founder of WWE and executive chairman, and John Laurinaitis, a retired wrestler and head of the talent relations department for WWE. Now, this was filed in Connecticut because McMahon and Grant are both Connecticut citizens, and Connecticut is where WWE headquarters is based. Now, first, let me tell you, before we even get into this lawsuit, a couple of things. We are mentioning her name, Janelle Grant, because she has chosen to be publicly identified. That's number one. Number two, this lawsuit includes very, very sexually explicit text messages and descriptions that we cannot show you here. We just will not do it. But what we are going to do is break down some of the most disturbing allegations as best as we can. So to start, there is a line at the beginning of this complaint that I thought was very interesting. And it says, quote, Miss Grant is filing this lawsuit not just to address her own suffering, but also to act for those who are afraid to speak out. I find that interesting because, as we have seen sometimes, when a high-profile person is accused by one person, then others will come out too. One person's claims gets the ball rolling. Sometimes they aren't comfortable coming forward immediately. But just to let you know that Vince McMahon, he has already been accused by prior employees of trying to cover up their relationship. So some of this is not new. Having said that, when we get into the details of this, it's kind of unthinkable. But according to the lawsuit, Grant met Mr. McMahon in 2019 when they lived in the same building. Grant's attorneys say that she had been the full-time caregiver for her parents, who both died, and that the family home was lost in the parents' bankruptcy. The complaint explains that she was in a really low place in her life. Well, after being introduced to McMahon, he befriended her, showed her a lot of attention, allegedly offered her a role with WWE, told her he would, help her life. Although what that role would be wasn't entirely clear in the beginning. And that seems to be something that McMahon allegedly took advantage of. You see, from the beginning, Grant alleges that McMahon would greet her in his underwear, in his condo, pull her close to him, tell him intimate details about his personal life. Now, Grant says eventually she was coerced into a sexual relationship with McMahon in exchange for a new role at WWE called Administrator Coordinator in the legal department. Now, while she started there, McMahon eventually transferred her to the Talent Relations Department headed up by John Laurinaitis, again, a co-defendant in this case, a former wrestler. But despite Grant's alleged pleas to end this essentially quid pro quo sexual relationship with McMahon, it did not, and according to Grant, it only got worse. First, Grant says that McMahon would share sexually explicit photos and videos of her with men both inside and outside of the company, including TV production teams, executives, producers, crew, even a world-famous athlete looking to sign with the WWE. This person is not identified in the lawsuit, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later on. Then McMahon is accused of recruiting individuals to have sex with Grant or participate in threesomes. He also allegedly directed her to have sex with Mr. Laurinaitis, who's again named in the lawsuit. She was expected to perform sex acts at WWE headquarters before, during, and after work hours. And to give you an example of what we're talking about here and what she was allegedly subjected to, the lawsuit says that on May 9th, 2020, McMahon defecated on Grant's head during a threesome and commanded her to continue the sexual encounter with the third person referred to as McMahon's friend. She later learned that that third person was McMahon's physical therapist. And just going back to that other allegation about McMahon and Laurinaitis having sexual contact with her at the office at WWE headquarters, this was allegedly despite her begging them to stop, and each held her down as the assaults happened. They allegedly said to her, "No means yes." Truly horrific stuff when you think about this. The lawsuit just describes these multiple sexual encounters between Grant and McMahon, which says were not consensual. She claims that he assaulted her multiple times with sex toys named after male wrestlers. According to the lawsuit, quote, in addition to her panic attacks, Ms. Grant began experiencing increasingly severe physical, mental, and emotional symptoms, including sleep disruption, dizziness, exhaustion, rashes, weight loss, hair loss, and migraines. November 2019, Ms. Grant informed Mr. McMahon that her doctor suggested that her symptoms stemmed from trauma and ongoing stress. McMahon mocked her, quote, emotional trauma, my ass. However, on November 20th, 2019, McMahon insisted that Miss Grant see a physician of his choosing. There's another allegation regarding someone identified only as WWE Superstar. This is a pro wrestler in the organization. And the allegation is that McMahon used Grant as a sexual pawn to entice this WWE Superstar to sign a new contract with the company. During the course of this event, or series of events, McMahon texted Grant a reminder that she was an enslaved object to him, saying, quote, I want to drive you lower and lower, so low that you might beg me to sell you. McMahon reportedly showered Grant with gifts financed by the WWE, including tickets to VIP events, gift cards worth thousands of dollars, clothing, jewelry, flowers, BMW, chef-catered dinners, a spa vacation. And then in January of 2022, McMahon had told Grant that his wife had found out about their sexual relationship. He said that her time at the WWE was at an end, but insisted that she sign a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA. In the lawsuit, her lawyers say, quote, in the days ahead, McMahon put Miss Grant under immense pressure to sign, saying that refusing would not only jeopardize McMahon, his family, and the company, but that she'd surely become a public headline, suffer reputational ruin, including from the pornographic content McMahon had captured, and face McMahon's legal resources. Conversely, McMahon reassured her that her signature would ensure his continued support and protection and safeguard her reputation. Ultimately, Miss Grant succumbed to the pressure and signed the NDA in exchange for payments, which McMahon later stopped making. The lawsuit claims that multiple high-ranking employees at WWE knew about this sexual relationship, as well as assaults allegedly committed on Grant at the offices, did nothing to stop it. Grant's legal team says that she is suffering from PTSD and has struggled with suicidal ideation. Now, this lawsuit has different claims or causes of action that I'm going to go into right now. And remember, in a civil case, the standard of proof is not beyond a reasonable doubt, like we have in a criminal case, but usually preponderance of the evidence. That's a lower standard, meaning that Grant has to show that more than likely this happened, more than 50% that these things happen, that they're true. So it is a lower standard to prove, but you still have to prove your claims nonetheless. Here, not only Grant's account, probably her testifying, but the incredibly sexually explicit text messages that are included in this complaint, the ones from McMahon, yeah, that can definitely help prove her case. And during discovery in the course of a litigation where they will get more information from McMahon and WWE, this is going to be evidence from the defendants that Grant hopes will help prove her claims. We can't show you or read you these text messages in the complaint because honestly, they're just far too graphic and explicit. But they include alleged texts from McMahon in which he describes violent sex acts he wants to perform on Grant or have others perform on her. The messages call her all sorts of degrading names. They tell her what other men have said about explicit photos and videos of her. He appears to also be scheduling sexual liaisons between Grant and other men like Laurinaitis. The text purportedly from McMahon also repeatedly tell Grant that if anyone were to find out about the relationship, she would lose her job and possibly face legal consequences. All right, so it's no secret that listening to stories like this McMahon